Hey, everybody. While it's not Monday at noon Pacific for me right now, because we're actually pre-recording this because I'm going to see Depeche Mode in San Francisco, and I'm going to be having a really terrible internet connection, one of those really bad hotel Wi-Fi connections. So I want to make sure that you can actually hear every juicy bit of my conversation with Pam Didner about go-to-market planning. So we've pre-recorded this video to share with you live right now. And you can still tag us and ask us questions and all that good stuff. But I am not putting the success of this conversation in the hands of a hotel IT person. No offense to any hotel IT people out there. It's just I cannot control the internet. All right. I can control the internet at my house right now. And so that's when we're recording this. So thank you so much, Pam, for hopping on for a content chat this week. Thank you. And oh my God, go-to-market planning. Your session at Marketing Profs, people voluntarily spent like a whole day with you to talk about go-to-market planning. And then they wanted to spend more time with you because I was with you as folks glommed onto you at every social event to ask you even more things. So clearly there's a lot that all of us need to learn about go-to-market planning, other than it being a place that we content marketers get a lot of work assignments from that we don't understand how they fit into the bigger business picture. So I appreciate you coming on here today to demystify all of that for us. So we're going to start with the obvious question. What is go-to-market planning for those who've never heard the term before? And why should content marketers care?
Okay, very good question. Erika, thank you so much for having me. Go-to-market is kind of like the words, the terms that go-to-market means you actually have a product that you want to bring in the market. And so the overall definition can be like your plan is find a way to engage with the customers and convince them to buy your product or service so they can be more efficient and effective. You're like, oh, how is that different than like any kind of demand gen that we are doing? Well, most of the time when people say go to market, they tend to have a new product that they want to market either to existing market or say new market. So it's not a typical demand gen, which is you kind of just run demand gen and get leads. This is more kind of like you have a new product or existing product that you want to kind of launch, a little bit kind of like a product launch. That's another name that a lot of people are using, is really a product launch or is a go-to-market. So in general, a lot of people say go-to-market is they want to launch a specific product. It can be new, it can be existing to an existing market or to a new market. Is that helpful?
Totally helpful. Totally helpful. So then that sounds to me like there's a few kinds of different go-to-market plans. Like there's, different content too that probably then comes into play, whether you're talking about if you're defining a whole new category, which I think we've both worked places where they're like, we're defining a whole new category. And you're like, I hope we have a lot of money because, of course, there's a lot more, that is this huge bear of a content plan and involves paying lots of analysts and stuff, as opposed to, hey, we have a new product that we're only going to be marketing to existing customers. So maybe you could walk us through like the different types of go-to-market plans and how content differs. And so I think this is probably going to be where we're going to spend a nice big chunk of time, because this is, from a content perspective, I think it's helpful to understand when you're getting these asks, what should be in them, because one size does not fit all. I can definitely tell you that.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with you. You brought a very good point. So there are different types of go-to-market. And some of them is kind of what I call a soft launch, or some of them is called hard launch. That's just a terminology. And you also brought a very good point in terms of like, hey, do you want to be a category leader for a specific product segment? Okay, so you brought a very good point in terms of what go-to-market can be. And so you have to define what go-to-market is for a specific product. For example, if it's just an existing product, you add additional features to it, but you want all your existing customer to know, hey, new features are added. Now there's AI being added to our products, and it will help you to do more, blah, 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 right? So you want to get that kind of messages out. And that's also a go-to-market. But it's a marketing to your existing product, to existing customer, possibly some new prospect. But if you actually have a brand new product, let's assume that your goal is actually want to be a category leader of that product. You know it's a long play. Chances are you want to probably be on the magic quadrant of the IDC, or you want to build you want to actually like you said, kind of expensive. You need to have a budget set aside to build up your product for that specific category. At the same time, it's a long play. You need to build kind of thought leadership, messagings and content to kind of build yourself up, which is something that you are very familiar with. Erika, you came to my podcast actually talking about thought leadership. And there's another type of go-to-market is new product to the new market. That one is also very expensive because it's a brand new product, and it also to the market that which is a brand new, not a lot of people are familiar with, like especially within your company. And then you have to go to market to that. But the thing is, it doesn't matter what types of go-to-market. There are three components of a go-to-market. Product, you got to have a pretty solid product to start with, right? Go to market with a product. There's a product side of it.
Not with just vaporware or just that front door.
Say that again. I'm sorry. I didn't hear you.
Not just with vaporware or that front door test. That's my favorite when it's like it's not even real yet, and they're like, "Okay, let's launch," and you're like, well, "What?
What is that? What are we launching?" I hear you. So the product, you need to have a product to go to market, and the product needs to be solid. That's another thing. Okay. A lot of tech companies were talking about product fit. I agree with that. But you have to make a judgment call in terms of when do you want to launch that product, if it's just product fit, right? And so product to launch, and then there is a sales side, which is sales need to be trained to launch the product. And there's a marketing side. Marketing needs to communicate out about the product. So it doesn't matter what kind of go-to-market types that I just shared with you. There's always three components, kind of like the three stools. There's a product side, there's a sales side, there's a marketing side. And you mentioned about content marketing plays a role into GTM completely, right? Sales needs to be trained. Well, the training stuff, that's content, right? Product specific type of content, you train your salespeople. And there's a product specific type of content that on the marketing side that you need to share. Content plays a huge role as a part of go-to-market planning, period. And it's very much kind of like you have to involve with subject matter experts on the product side to understand the product, get their feedback, understand the messagings that you want to talk about. And then from there, content marketer's role is take that information and then craft the content specifically from the sales side and also on the marketing side. Is that helpful?
When yeah, totally. And so then when you're thinking through kind of the difference from the content creation and content marketing standpoint between when you have that launch that's really just adding some new features to an existing product and it being primarily focused on marketing to your existing customers to get them to upgrade versus when you're doing a brand new, product launch in a new category, what's the kind of like difference in kind of like your content creation plan? Like when are you going to get involved with doing more of that kind of like analyst co-created content?
That's actually a great point. From my perspective, the content creation is always, I look at the content creation of content needs from both bottoms up and top down. Okay. And like the top down, it tend to be, there are certain kind of content that you probably needs to create. Like if we are talking about new products and to new market, I'm just using that as an example. The top down tend to be because it's a new market and also it's new products. Because it's a new product, there's not much of a content about this product to start with. Therefore, you need to create some product specific type of content. Depending on the objectives of your go-to-market, let's assume that the analysts' testimonials or endorsements are critical. Then working with the key research firms or the analyst to co-create content is also super critical. And you can incorporate that as actually part of the go-to-market, especially from content's perspective. So it depends on the objective, how you want to launch it, and how important it is. And this is a little bit more on the thought leadership play, if you will, which is something that you are incredibly familiar and also a specialized in. So
huge advocate for that approach for sure. Because I think, like you, I've just seen how impactful it can be, because that third-party validation when you're doing B2B technology content marketing, you so need to have that. It's so valuable, 100%. So how frequently should companies be revisiting their or checking in on their go-to-market strategy? Because it seems like sometimes there's the big, okay, here's our strategy, and you launch it, and then you don't hear anything again about it until it's time for the next product launch.
So in general, the way I look at go-to-market, depending on who you talk to, okay, some of them, they feel like go-to-market, there's no timeline. We go to market like as if like for several months. The way I created go-to-market, there is a timeline. All right, there's a lot of preparation that needs to happen. Let's assume you have a product launch day here, and we call it T, like T as like the D-Day that you're going to launch. T minus 4 is the 4 months prior to launch. T plus 2 is 2 months after launch. In general, any kind of go-to-market, especially new product for new market, you need quite a bit of preparation to launch a brand new product to a new market, especially if you want to build category about it. And you know that very well. So the 4 or 5 months of planning for the new products is actually kind of essential. You need to have a preparation. And during that preparation, the content creation and the content editorial also is a major topic as a part of the planning. When you have a product launch, and then you also have to campaigns. The campaign including possibly PR campaigns, analyst interaction, and a lot of demand gen. And you can set up as a T plus 2, T plus 4, right? So you set up a time in terms of like during this period, like everything we do is really GTM, right? So because GTM a lot of time has a lot to do with product launches, how often do you need to update a GTM? It really depending on the product roadmap from my perspective. So how often do you update your features or add new feature for your product? How often do you launch a new product? On the SaaS-based platform, chances are you probably do that a little bit more often than if you just have a physical product that you are selling. So from my perspective, that's more product roadmap driven discussion.
And that, of course, that's a whole different can of worms, because I don't know about you, but it does sometimes feel like those developers and engineering teams are really cagey about sharing that roadmap. So it can be hard to kind of plan ahead and get ahead from a content perspective on some of this stuff. It kind of feels like it's like, all right, so cool, we got this new functionality done, which means we want to launch this in 2 weeks. And you're like, what? No.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm the only one.
No, it's not you. I personally think in general, many companies in terms of the product side, they are not necessarily sharing the product roadmap, say with the sales, with the marketing people. Okay. And they always wait till kind of the product development cycle can be this long, but they really start sharing the information with the sales, with other, I would say colleagues or internal stakeholders about the product when this is like close to launch. Oh, by the way, this is almost done. I just want to let you know that we probably need to work on launch point, that kind of stuff, right? So we many companies and on the product side, they do that. And the reason is, I don't blame them per se, because a lot of time when you design a product, there's a lot of features, right? They want to add a lot of feature, but everybody has a finite resources and budget. So they have to prioritize what kind of features that needs to be added over a period of time. And most of the time that kind of fluctuate. They cannot make up their minds. Management has a lot to say, but whatever reason. And because that's continuously a moving target, and also sometimes when you write codes, you run into an issue that you did not anticipate.
Right.
And so there's always another component, which is they delay the launch date because they know that it's a moving target and the launch dates are to change. And they don't want to come out in terms of like, oh my God, constantly changing the time and the dates for the product launch. So like no communication is good communication. So they end up not saying much. But I am more from the perspective that if product team can share their product roadmap, even though it's changing on a regular basis, that's totally okay. You kind of give the sales and marketing, especially marketing, a little heads up in terms of what is coming. Fine, you say you're going to launch in Q2, but that got pushed down in Q3. Or you're going to launch in Q2, but that got pulled into Q1. At least that's not a huge surprise for the marketing people, right? They know that, oh my God, now I'm showing my last stuff I need to do, right? What other things can I get done? Can I not get done? And they can, stop planning on that.
So that brings me to, my next question, which is, who should be part of this go-to-market planning process? Because it sometimes feels like there are a lot of us, if like I've been in charge of content and internal comms, external comms, and PR. And in all of those roles, I'll tell you, frequently, I was one of the last people invited to the party, despite being, integral to creating all this content. And then you can't get on anyone's calendar and you can't, get the information you need. So I'd love to hear from your perspective, what does a good go-to-market planning, group look like? Like who should be involved and, who should be really having a seat at that table?
Very good question. So remember I said there are three components of a GTM. There's a product side, there's a sales side, there's a marketing side in general. So if you are looking for a team that needs to be part of it, it got to be a representation from product side, the sales side, and the marketing side in general, right? Because these are three components, then you need to have necessary players from these three departments, if you will. There might be others. You can also add a marketing research team. You can also add a user interface team. You can also add, say, legal team. You can also add the PR team as a part of it. But in general, the big pillars are product, sales, and marketing. Then within the marketing, you have to determine who should be invited. And from my perspective, that has a lot to do with your go-to-market plan. So what is your marketing outreach strategy will be for the GTM, right? So if you actually have a certain campaign elements associated with it, you're going to have a launch event marketing team. If you're going to do kind of pay ads, okay, media buy, or if you're going to do email marketing, digital marketing, website needs to be updated, okay, the website team. So in the big corporate world, a GTM is a lot of people because there are different people doing different things. But in a startup, when your team is very small, a lot of marketers are wearing multiple hats, then the team is going to be smaller. So to answer your question, content marketers should always be part of it because big chunk of a GTM is actually content, right? Most of the time on the GTM side of things, go to market, there's two common questions that salespeople always ask. Number one is, what can I say? Seriously, I'm launching this product. What can I say? Right? And then number two is, who am I saying this to?
Yeah.
Right?
And why do they care?
So these two questions need to be addressed. And what do I say? Well, I'm launching this product, which is, let's assume this is the ring light you're going to launch, right? So first of all, now it's ring light, right? What can you say about this ring light? That's coming from marketing and the product team. The next thing is, we create this product for whom? Who is going to buy this product, right? So these two things are very important elements of it that needs to be addressed upfront on any GTM planning.
Gotcha. Do you have any kind of like specific documented like framework or template that you use? And if so, is it something that you make available to folks either through like a download or a book? Because I think it's always so helpful to have examples so that way you know what you're including.
Share that, Erika. So how do I share that? Do I send that like a high level templates to you, or
just
is it possible
send me
that
a link and I'll include it in the recap. Yeah, happy to do that.
Okay, perfect.
So what kind of stuff do you have like documented in there? Because go ahead. Sorry, we're having a tiny bit of lag.
Sorry. Okay, so sorry. So in general, on GTM plan, I actually have what I call a 2-pager, which is what's the GTM goal, GTM objective, GTM strategy, and also sales enablement initiatives, and also who are the target customers we talk to, along with KPI. So that's what I call a 2-pager. It's basically when you write enough information, you fill in the blanks. It's about 2 slides. And then the other 3 slides, in general, you have more slides, trust me, because it's like putting a marketing plan together, is you putting a GTM planning together. In general, you have to scope your GTM. Let's assume you have a launch day, that call it T. And then, like I said, you have 4 months of planning, that's T minus 4. Then you have 3 months of a promotion and demand gen or brand awareness, that's T plus 3. So if you scope it that way, then your next 3 slides should be T minus 4, right? What are you going to do in terms of preparation? T, what's your launch day? And then T plus 3, what does your campaign look like 3 months after launch? So if you think about it, that when you do a go-to-market, right, you created 2 slides talking about objective, the scope, the strategy, what you're going to do. Then the next 3 slides is timeline driven, and you scope it. What you're going to do for preparation, what you're going to do for launch, what you're going to do after. So that's the gist of the templates.
That totally makes sense. I know, though, that frequently, what can happen, though, of course, is you put together those slides and you're presenting it, and inevitably you have, somebody who's part of the leadership team who's a naysayer. Like, let's say they don't believe in SEO, which that happens. That really does happen. They don't believe in SEO, or they don't believe in content marketing, or they don't believe in events. Are there any things that you can kind of do in this go-to-market deck, or anything that you should include in order to increase the likelihood that you'll get their buy-in and get them to say, yes, here's your money, go and prosper, versus them saying, I want a completely new plan, I disagree with this? Because that's the worst case scenario, and that's like everyone's nightmare.
So from my perspective, like a lot of naysayers, let's just think about it. Sit back. Why do people say no on a lot of things? Okay. From my perspective, there are probably 2 reasons, but there are more. Okay. Number 1 is they don't know what they don't know. Okay. Or number 2, they have done it in the past, it didn't work. Let's just assume that. Let's assume that all of us are very logical and rational, and we say no, not for emotional reason. Okay, sometimes we do that, but that's just assume in the business world, people tend to be rational. Okay, they don't know what they don't know. And the second thing is they had done it, it didn't work, right? So you have to understand why people say no. If they say no to SEO just because they don't know, then it's your job to educate them. And when I said that is you probably have to do some education way before you present. Find time to do that education, or do a little bit of education when you present. Why is that critical? Right? So understand why they say no is very important from my perspective on any form of communication, including GTM. Let's assume is they did SEO and it did not work. It was a horrible experience. How can SEO be a horrible experience? I don't know, but I'm just saying that.
Keyword stuffing.
Or
if they ever had that kind of agency.
Yeah, they don't know what they were doing. Yes, I get it. So they have a bad experience. Then you have to address that head down. And you basically said, okay, yes, this happened before, and this was not done right. And we identify the root causes, and we're going to do it right this time. So it's more or less address the question in a proper way, and at the same time, provide a solution on top of it. Right.
Mhm.
So my take on this is when I was looking on Naysayer, and most of the time I would try to gather a lot of information upfront about who might say no, or who are the managers that are going to come to this meeting, understanding, what are some of, just you have to gather intelligence in
Yeah.
advance about your senior management, right? And their personal preferences and that kind of stuff. And so you get in there and address their issues accordingly. But most importantly, just understand why they say no. I think that's critical.
Yeah. Would you actually include like an appendix where you had some of those, slides showing like what your plan was for the previous launch and what maybe some of the metrics were too? Okay. Because it's
Yes.
like, while you can always, send it later, it just, to me, it's so nice when you just have that stuff when you, like you said, you anticipate the objections,
Yep.
just like you're in sales.
Yep.
And you've got them right there in the deck.
Yep.
You're like, yes, we knew this might come up. Let's skip ahead.
So I 100% agree with you. In general, you say appendix, I call it backup. And in most of the slides I have as a GTM, the real formal deck or the deck before backup, it's not a lot of slides. But you need to understand whatever you put on those slides, you need to substantiate them. For example, if you're going to say SEO not working very well, we're going to do SEO, we want incremental budget of this, you need to be able to explain why you need more budget. You need to be able to substantiate your recommendation. And all that substantiation and supporting document is based on all the past campaigns or analysis or whatever you have done. But all this does not need to be part of the real deck. And this is part of Pandex. So you hit the core. Like when you try, just like you said, anticipate your question, have the information ready. In case they ask, you can actually jump ahead and say, oh, we have this information, just want to share with you, and then come back.
Yeah. I love that approach because that way you're not flailing and opening a bunch of files on your computer or saying, I'll get to you, tomorrow with that. But you're also not like making the whole presentation so long. It's there if you need it, but if you don't need it, then you didn't open that can of worms too, which is nice.
I 100% agree, Erika. You hit the core.
So let me think here. So when you think through with the teams that you've worked with, that you've led yourself or that you've consulted with, what do you find are the most like common roadblocks or challenges that the marketing teams in particular face? First in defining the go-to-market strategy and getting that buy-in, and then actually executing. Because I have some thoughts too, but I'd love to hear what your experience has been.
So the most common challenges, I would say the most common challenge that they are meeting, and the most common challenge that marketer run into tends to be the moving target of the GTM date, believe it or not. And I have done many GTMs, they still change the date, like literally 8 weeks prior to launch. And you think I'm kidding, I'm not. So, and a lot of like this, not having a finalized say in terms of a day can actually impact marketing tremendously, especially if you do launch event. You know how it is, Erika. On the event side of things, you have to have a venue. There's a lot of things you have to get done in advance for the preparation, right? It's not something that you can literally just pull the event out of a hat, like 24 hours prior to. You can't.
And you pay all of these deposits that are based upon your event being on a specific date.
Oh my God. There was time I have to deal with cancellation because we push out the launch day, and then we have to deal with the whole night. Anyway, so that can be one, and that happens quite often. You think that GTM, everybody have a day set, and that's that. No, they change on a regular basis, and sometimes it's a moving target. That's number one. Number two is a lot of time, any kind of products, it's not like a ring light. Okay, I'm gonna use a ring light as one more example. It's like, oh, they have like 8 features. Okay, fine, done, right? But most of the SaaS-based platform, or even any products that sell to the enterprise, especially on B2B, they have many features in the product. There's so what are the product features we need to dial up? What are the product features that we need to prioritize as like 3 things we need to say? Or with so many product features, how we can distill down to one value proposition that cover all the features. So what to say tend to be a lot of debates among management, marketers, and also subject matter expert. I have discussion on what to say and what features to dial up for months that we cannot settle on what to say. So that's the second thing that I found it in terms of the most common challenge. If you cannot determine what to say, you cannot create content. Okay? You can't.
That's so true. It's so true, because how do you know what to focus on?
How do you know what kind of things to emphasize? Exactly. Yeah. So that tend to be another, how should I say it, a gap or gating items that you get management and also the project manager team, like they noodle over that over and over again. And here we are, the marketer was like, come on, just make a decision. Can we just move forward? Make a decision. So that's another thing that a lot of GTM marketers found incredibly frustrating, is settle on the prioritization of features.
It's so true, because it's like you have to know in advance, is the story that we are doing something that is differentiating that no one else has, or is the story that we're reaching, that we're closing a gap that we had with a competitor? Yeah. Like, you need to understand, like, what is the vision behind this launch? What's the narrative and the story? Because nobody wants to read your blog post with the 18 different new features and functionality. No one wants that.
You have to dial up a couple things. Yes, that's it. Yeah.
Totally. So, all right. So let's say that you finally launched and you're executing your plan, and you haven't like had the whole marketing team fired, which I swear keeps happening. I've known too many. I mean, this year has been that kind of a year where you just watch, you watch folks be at companies that are technology companies, that are SaaS technology companies, that literally let go their entire marketing team. And you think to yourself, are you going to start selling your furniture? Because I wonder how they're going to go to market without any marketing team. So let's say, okay, nothing like that's happened. Everything's great and fine. You're executing against your plan and it's not working. It's like been 3 months and you're not seeing the results that people had. What do you do?
Well, so this happens a lot too, by the way. It does. Not every single GTM is successful. It's just like your marketing campaigns. Not every single email marketing campaigns or integrated marketing campaign that you run worked. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Okay. And if you communicate, from my perspective, the GTM sometimes is a kind of like a committee decisions, especially in a big enterprise, right? Like many people needs to agree on messaging. Many people needs to agree on launch day. Many people needs to agree on kind of like a launch plan. So in a way, your launch plan was approved or holy watered by management. Everybody is in it together. You are not alone. That means the plan has been approved and also the KPI is being acknowledged, right? Now the GTM is over and then you pull your actual results and it's not achieving, say, your KPI that you set up for. But you have to understand, GTM has 3 components. There's a product side, there's sales side, there's a marketing side. Right? So when something fails like that, you have to identify what are the root causes, right? I'm not saying that Most of the time, marketing is the one take all the blame. We all know that, Erika, you and me. Okay. But in general, you have to kind of look at when we are not meeting the target. Okay. There are reasons. Can you identify some root causes? If you are very transparent and say, we are not meeting the target, this is the best we have done. Okay. The reason we are not meeting the target are the possible root causes as the following. You can identify that and you will say, we learned a lot and we will do our GTM better next time because of blah, 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 blah. It's okay to communicate bad news. I communicate bad news all the time. Do you know? Okay, do you know how many times I launch campaigns for my clients? I come back and say, not doing well. Okay. But in general, I usually are able to explain why. I think when you share your plan and your plan is pretty solid, everybody agreed to it. And at the end, it's not going that well. As long as you can explain and you keep everybody up to date along the way, what are you going to do? I mean, seriously. And so my take on this is just be very transparent and don't sugarcoat it. In the past, I try to spin it and I try to sugarcoat it. I actually just say it the way it is and then have a plan. Explain why it didn't go well and say, what are you going to do next time? And you do it better.
I think that's so important. And, what also I think is always fascinating is from a content perspective, content can sometimes take a while to catch on. But then once it does,
the long tail you can.
Yeah, the long tail can be amazing because I'll tell you, I've done content for, I do content, bylined content as an influencer. And what's been fun is sometimes they'll use, like if they've used Studio ID or another one of those platforms where you might work with several different clients through it. If they give you the access to analytics, you'll get the reports every month to tell you how the content that you created for folks is doing. And what was fun for me is I would see a post that I had written for a client several years before and see that, cyclically, it kept being one of their top 10 most shared and interacted with, engaged with pieces of content on a regular cycle. And that is what's so interesting, because just because you've created something as part of your go-to-market plan, it doesn't mean that those 3 months, that little time box is the only time that you have to get value out of the content too.
You brought a very good point. The point is when you are sharing your results, you always have to say, this is digital. A lot of time, digital is not like print. Digital is not like a commercial. You run commercial for a certain period of time, then you stop running, right?
Yeah.
Digital, like all the content created for digital, they sit on the internet for long period of time. There's a long tail effect. And I think it's very important, just like you said, to remind the management of that, right? So yes, we actually take a point at a time to evaluate how we are doing against our key performance indicators. But there is a long tail effect of the digital marketing communication that will continue to happen. And chances are we are not tracking that 6 months from now, a month, a year from now. But it is happening. That's a very good point.
Yeah. And I know, for the clients where I'm working on that kind of stuff, I will still, bring it up at the, if we have the extra 2 minutes at the end of, the content call, I'll go, oh, and by the way, we're still the top result for this, thing that's, from a previous campaign. It's fun to show that, that way they understand too, how some of that old content also then can help new content that you have, because we can kind of get into that one and done. Oh, that's old content. We don't think about it. We don't care about it. But if that content has really found its own audience and it's being found in search and it's being linked to, keeping that stuff in mind is so important, because then you're doing a new campaign and you have to think about how can I use that content to drive some people to what we're doing for this go-to-market plan, or how can I update it to, be relevant to what we're doing. And I think too often we can get kind of stuck in that idea that every time we, have a new go-to-market plan, we have to create a X amount of net new content, which always makes me sad when one of the KPIs is to create, X pieces of content. I'm like, no, that should never be a goal. You should always have, meaningful engagement results, and it shouldn't be overwork the content team. That should not be one of them.
Quality over quantity.
Exactly. Yeah. So thinking through like your specifically the session you did at Marketing Props, because again, I just heard so many people were so psyched about it. Like, what was the kind of when you got feedback from folks in person, like what was the big kind of like aha moment, or the thing that people are like, oh my gosh, Pam, I just can't believe you told me this thing that should have been obvious and it wasn't? Like, what was kind of like the big aha or takeaways that kind of changed the way that people thought about go-to-market?
So a lot of them, some of them actually have done go-to-market. They come to my session to validate what they had done. Okay. And some of them have no clue whatsoever to launch a product or to go to market, and don't even know the definition of it. And they walk away in general. Majority of people that walk away is I give them templates. I said, the go-to-market is a team sport. And you put the team together, then somebody needs to rally the whole team, right? You need to actually have a PM, project manager, the go-to-market project manager, to actually herd the cats, if you will. So the key thing is you have to have a GTM project manager to herd the cats. That's number one. And then the other thing is, while you have a people that was, okay, fine, I'm here. Tell me what to do. Then you need to have a plan. And then you have a plan together that everybody agree. So the biggest takeaway, I think, for a lot of people is I created the templates, more depth templates on the slides that they can use to create a go-to-market. That's probably the key things, because every time you are talking about like, okay, I'm doing the marketing. Marketing is such an abstract term. What is marketing, right?
It's such a huge umbrella.
Right. Go to market is like, okay, I go to market with my product. What does that mean? What I did is I solidify in terms of what that means, and then provided a very solid template that they can follow through. I think that's probably their biggest takeaway.
I love that. And I think when you think about, what's going to make us successful as marketers, in the coming year and in the years to come, to me, it's 100% about figuring out that process, documenting that process, getting the buy-in, and not reinventing the wheel every single time you approach things, because it can start to feel as though, some teams don't have that, they haven't taken the time to, solidify that template or that process. And so every time it's like, okay, let's get in a meeting and let's act like we've never done this before and, start from scratch. And it's like, why do that to yourself? Who has time for that?
Yeah, I do agree with that. And it's if you can build kind of like a process, or you have a template that you can reuse, that would be the best.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So Pam, we'll be adding the templates to the recap posts that we post and share with folks. That way they can see them. But where else, if people want to hear more from you about marketing in general, or about go-to-market specifically, are there any upcoming events you're speaking at, or where can people find out more?
That's a great point. So I don't actually have any workshop that's scheduled at this point. If your company has a need, reach out to me, and then we can definitely talk about it. If I can do a customized GTM workshop for you and your team. Another thing is you can always come to pamdidner.com, which is, I have a blog, I have podcast. I haven't done that actually for a little while, but I actually have 200 episodes of podcasts. Mm-hmm. And I also have did a lot of video on the YouTube channel, but more focused on know-how. Kind of go through my content and if there's anything that you have questions related to B2B marketing that you cannot find content that I did, just reach out to me directly, hello@pamdidner.com. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you may have, especially marketing challenges. The way I see it is if you have marketing challenges, I want to be able to answer them. If I cannot answer them, I was like, I'm not good enough. I need to do something.
Pam, you are Knuff. Okay, you're Knuff.
Oh man.
Well, Pam, thank you so much for giving us this crash course in go-to-market. And I hope that it has demystified something that, for a lot of content marketers feels like this scary black hole of to-dos. So thank you so much. And I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Erika. Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate you. Bye, Pam.
Bye-bye.